All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here, of course, for RWBY Volume 5.
Chapter 7.
Yes. Rest and Resolutions.
Right.
Yes, I think that
this is yet.
This is as pretty literal as it gets when it comes to RWBY, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're basically going to have a point where they're going to recuperate.
Yes.
The group is mostly back together except for Blake.
Right.
But they need to decide what the plan is. And having them all together means they can focus on moving forward.
Exactly. In theme with this volume.
Very in theme with RWBY as a whole.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Before you keep moving forward, you have to start moving forward.
Right.
Right. And now this is that point where the story can
start moving forward.
Mm. Because there's been a lot of things that with Volume 4 in particular, all the characters needed to go on a little bit of soul searching.
Yes.
And now that they've all kind of understood who they are, Weiss and Yang in particular, have a very clear direction and motivations for their character. But as for actually what they're going to do as a group together, that's where things can get interesting. Especially now that they have Ozpin essentially able to communicate with them and help them formulate some kind of plan if they don't have one necessarily other than just protect Haven Academy.
Which will be complicated.
Which will be complicated because I get the feeling that we might get a confrontation soon with... the
bad guys?
No, with Lionheart in particular.
Oh, sure.
Lionheart might need to be confronted by Ozpin. Maybe not literally by Ozpin.
Actually, that might be the best because that might be what actually gives him courage to, stand up against Salem.
But the thing is that his room is bugged, and that could end up being bad
if they find out
that Ozpin
is
inside of Oscar.
That's true.
All right, so without further ado, let's get into this episode and see what happens. Food!
Yes!
Ramen! Oh, this is so great!
Yep.
How do you lose your map at a time like that?
Oh my gosh.
I've asked myself the same thing ever since.
Extra funny because he's the writer.
But you made up for it, Mr. Muscles. You should have seen this guy take a giant grim head on.
I couldn't have done it without RWBY wearing it down.
Me? Did you see Ren during that fight?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Literally.
I may have lost my temper momentarily.
Oh.
No, and out of control isn't awesome.
Yes.
Oh. Thank you.
That delay! Oh my god! Ren, you're amazing.
Not. Yeah, right in the middle of the party. Please tell me you let that lady have it. Of course not. Even if I did really want to. No way. I don't believe it.
Wow.
So Weiss is very comfortable with your summoning now.
Right.
It's not a replacement for the real thing. But I'll make sure to make good use of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible.
Nora's like, I approve.
And it's just as strong?
Stronger.
Sure is.
Stronger, yeah.
Wanna bet?
Oh!
Please, now's not the time.
No, now is the time. Let's do this.
Don't let her beat you.
You can do this.
You can do it.
Come on, sis! Oh, you can't lose to a girl in a skirt! You wear a skirt, Ruby. Guys, you're not cheering loud enough!
Yes.
Definitely feels like the original. I'll give you that. Yep. But it does have some new features.
Oh.
Yeah.
Does it? Oh.
That doesn't mean you won the arm wrestling match.
Win?
Not necessarily.
Huh?
Okay.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
We ate it all.
Slice of life, RWBY, back.
Sick.
Yep.
Easy
Back in
there,
action.
vomit boy. I believe in you.
Oh, we're doing nickname throwbacks now.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
I mean, the ice queen seems to like it.
I so did not miss you people.
Oh my gosh,
Baka.
she really does like it. I went and warmed your heart while you were gone.
Hey, you make it sound like I used to be terrible.
Well,
Nah, just a lot to deal with at once.
yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
We've all grown in our own ways.
You really think so?
Well, think back to when we were all at Beacon.
Oh.
Do you think you ever did anything foolish or embarrassing? Or do you think you were perfect?
Oh gosh.
I may have been a little too gung-ho from time to time.
You? I tried to 1v1 a Nevermore on the second day of school.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, don't even get me started.
Well, that embarrassment, that desire to go back and tell yourself not to be so stupid, that just proves you're not the same person you used to be.
Right.
That's true.
You're smarter.
Well said, Ren.
Or stronger. And you're not done growing yet. None of us are.
No.
That Ren gets real deep when he feels like talking.
Yeah. That was meta.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was pretty great in school.
Even at the dance, when you spilled punch all over yourself in front of...
Yes, especially the dance. Thank you, Yang.
Kids possibly make so much noise eating dinner.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, there's that.
Serious time now.
Yeah, Ozpin's already told them everything.
So, the maidens, magic, Salem, it's all true?
Miss Zhao Long, is this more or less what your mother told you?
For the most part.
You forgot something. You forgot to tell everyone what you did to Crow and my mother.
What is she talking about? Oh, great.
It's not a secret I thought she would give up so easily. Your mother must trust you a great deal.
Well,
My ability to reincarnate, though a curse, isn't without a few key benefits. Much like the Maidens,
Okay.
I too possess a certain magical power.
yep.
Using this power, I was able to gift the Branwen twins the ability to see more, to move freely and be unburdened by their natural bodies. Well, gave them the ability to turn into birds. Rather ridiculous sounding out loud, isn't it?
Yep.
Wait, what?
Oscar's like, huh?
You turn them into birds.
Yeah.
Alright, now you're just messing with us.
What else is new?
He's telling the truth. We saw it. Yang's mom changed right in front of us.
Yeah.
Why would you do something like that? I mean, what is wrong with you?
Yang, that's enough. We made a choice. We wanted this.
Yeah. That's the obvious bit.
May I?
Right.
Yeah. Raven
Granting this power to them was no trivial task, and I can assure you it was not done frivolously.
Yeah.
It required assistance in gathering information on Salem's plans, as well
Right.
as searching for maidens when their hosts became unclear.
Okay, so have you done this with others? Like General Ironwood or Professor Goodwitch?
As helpful as that might be, unfortunately it is not that simple. My power is finite, and if I'm being honest, dwindling. The amount
Okay.
that I gifted to Crow and Raven was, all things considered, rather minuscule. You see, centuries ago, I sacrificed a great deal of magic to 4 young women who I
Yep.
hoped would use my gift for good.
Yep.
Yep.
Obvious.
They were the first maidens.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
How long? It was never my intention to lie to you. To any of you.
Right.
There are just some matters that I prefer to play close to the chest. I believe that's
Right.
how you phrased it.
Yeah.
Everyone has a choice. The Branwens chose to accept their powers and the responsibilities that came with them. And later,
Right.
one of them chose to abandon her duties in favor of her own self-interest. Now, all of you have a choice.
Right. A resolution to make.
If anyone wishes to leave. now is the time. There is no shame or disgrace in abstaining. Only in retreat.
Only one that makes sense potentially is Jean.
Very well.
Yeah.
Then.
Oh.
Yay?
If Ruby sticks around, then I will too. If there's one thing I know about her, it's that she somehow always knows the right thing to do.
Oh. Cool.
That's a bit of pressure, though.
No.
But
It's...
if we're going to help, if we're going to keep risking our lives, no more lies. No more half-truths.
the ticking in the background.
Understood.
In that case, it's time you all learned about the Silver-Eyed Warriors.
Right.
What can we do?
That is a difficult question. One that I believe is best answered tomorrow.
What do you mean?
The road ahead is undoubtedly filled with hardships and peril. However, it has been far too long since you have all been together. Please, take tonight. Enjoy this moment.
Ow! Raven? Crow? Birds! Cracked it!
Genius.
Yeah.
Oh, here comes Cinder.
Hey, ugly.
Mercury. Emerald.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh boy, here we go.
Is Raven Branwen home?
You know, I've had a real bad week. So I think I'm gonna take it out on you.
Whoa.
And they're gone. Oh.
No.
Watts is there too, okay.
Yep.
Doesn't look like he wants to cooperate, boss.
That means Lionheart doesn't have anyone watching over him.
Then make him.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Okay.
Oh, this guy is just the punching bag for everyone.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Good way to end it.
Okay.
But that was great. But before we get into everything, I have to let you guys know something really quick. I'm sorry that it has to be this way, but I'm taking a trip out of like way far away from home for the next 2 weeks. So the next 2 episodes
are going to be a
RWBY
bit late.
Are going to be a bit late. Yeah. So it might not be necessarily more than the first one being than the very next one being a bit late, but it might be the next 2. I think it's almost guaranteed to be the next 2.
It's probably going to be the next 2.
Yeah. So sorry about that, guys.
So we'll have to sit on this cliffhanger.
This cliffhanger for a long time.
For a while.
Technically, it's going to be. Yeah, it's 2 weeks. It's the 16th is when you'll see the episodes back up. Yeah.
So,
oh man.
Yeah. Okay, so right.
So we knew that Ozpin was the wizard. There was like a huge like bunch of people that were like, well, we're not convinced. It's like,
but it's like there's no one else it could be. Like,
there's no one else it could be. It also ties a couple things together. It's the idea of the only really thing people were thinking of that makes it not work was the idea that people thought that by him giving magic to the maidens, that meant that the wizard effectively had no more powers afterwards.
Right.
But I think actually the point of the whole thing is that Ozpin, as his original, form has constantly evolved over time, was a very strong individual.
Yes.
Originally, with whatever gifts the gods gave him to stop Salem, in addition to the curse aspect of it.
Yeah.
So him basically giving magic to the maidens doesn't necessarily mean he has maiden powers.
No.
But what it does is it covers a nice basis of all the things that he did when he fought Cinder.
Yes.
And there's probably a specific semblance to it, like the idea of time being a a factor. There's all the clocks and gears that are related to Ozpin in some way.
Which is really interesting if you think about the idea that he ended up creating the Maidens, and then he ended up getting killed by one of the Maidens. Just one of them. Yeah. And if he was built, or was he was given this power to stop Salem.
Yep.
Then, and he created the Maidens, then that must have meant that he wasn't able to do it by himself with the original power that he had. Right?
Yeah.
Which means then that all 4 Maidens together shouldn't have enough power to defeat Salem.
I don't think that's actually what it means. I think it's actually the idea that the Maidens are stronger than Ozpin now.
Okay. Right.
The idea that
his power's been dwindling.
The idea that unless Salem is growing in power, Salem is legitimately threatened by the existence of the Maidens. And by extension, Ozpin guiding the Maidens.
Sure, yeah, because otherwise why would she bother collecting them?
Yeah, I think the idea that we've constantly flirted with this idea that Cinder could potentially go rogue at some point. Because Cinder gathering the Maidens and potentially being the vessel for at least one of them before they're passed on to Salem, which is kind of, I feel like, her plan. There's some way that Salem has control over Cinder. Maybe that's the Grimm inside her that...
Yeah, possibly.
Maybe that's the Grimm that's where her arm,
maybe the
missing
Grimm
arm is,
Yeah, exactly.
Because remember when she was doing that healing stuff for Cinder?
Yep.
There was this thing that Salem was controlling, and Cinder's arm was down, and you couldn't see the bottom half, and it was kind of like trembling, and you could hear this Grimm sound of like...
Right, and that's what they seem to be saying is the reason why Ruby's Silver Eye powers worked on Cinder, because she had the Grimm inside her that was holding the Maiden powers or whatever.
Or what have you. It's the idea that Cinder is a temporary vessel for the...
that is right.
For this whole thing. But if Cinder's survival ends up being threatened by Salem pulling this out of her...
we could get some.
We could, at the very least, see for like a split second Cinder be her enemy before Salem kills her, or
hopefully Cinder just like strikes out on her own.
Right. I could see also the idea of an abandoned Cinder. Basically, Cinder getting left without the powers and then has to go away. But we're going too deep on a theory. There's a lot of speculation.
So this episode was again a setup episode.
But it's not necessarily a pure setup episode. They developed a couple things with regards to how the people will be reacting to this kind of information and such like that.
Yeah.
But what it did have that was really cool was the beginning bit with them
slice of life dinner.
Having the dinner slice of life scene, and that was just a gem.
Yeah,
that was so perfect.
Yeah,
it might have been a little fan servicey, but I didn't care.
Right, it was. Those kinds of things we haven't really been able to see since they were at Beacon. Like, really since before Season 3. Because even in Season 3...
There was the tournament.
There was the tournament and the impending sense of doom before the doom actually hit.
Right, but also, in particular, Ruby and Juniper being all together... I don't think has happened since the
noodles.
The noodles, which this was a nice callback to. Is basically, hey, look at how our budget has increased. We'll do actual, like, good-looking food instead of just a static bowl of mound of spaghetti, noodles, ramen, whatever. And in this, they had banter. They had callbacks. They had goofing off and all kinds of stuff like this. Them kind of recapping little bits of what's happened in Volume 4 since they've been gone. Yang showing off the arm. The little arm wrestling match was amazing.
I was really hoping that there would be something where, like, Nora secretly had like a fork that was like in an outlet or something like that.
Nora being like so excited about the dance and then like playing Shine on her scroll, like, oh my gosh. The bit about showing each character's like emotional state and where they're at, showing how much they've grown. I got to give special shout out to Weiss in particular. Weiss in particular felt like she had captured the aspect of Weiss who wasn't as uptight anymore, but still has the Ice Queen bit of maybe a little bit of personal pride, but it's now not arrogant or cocky. It's done in the right ways. But she can also take the jabs at herself.
Exactly.
But she's also a lot more self-aware when she realized, how much she has changed when Ren made his little speech, which, oh man, Ren's little bit was good.
It was really good.
I loved the meta joke about how it seems like how Ren has a lot of wise things to say once he's feeling like talking, which is it's a little sad actually, because you can feel that they didn't change anything about Ren, but basically Monty never got to voice these lines. And we don't know necessarily if this is exactly how Ren would have been if Monty was still around, but we can still kind of picture the idea that Neith is doing such a fantastic job of voice acting Ren. Yeah. But imagine if these lines of wisdom were spoken by Monty. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like just kind of that thing of what we've lost, but also the idea that Neith is doing his brother justice by giving these lines. It's almost like, in a way, we have a portal to Monty as he gives us little bits of wisdom. I always wonder if whenever Ren says things like this, if they every once in a while, besides just the keep moving forward one, slot in other little Monty-isms that he used to say. And
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. So, love you, Monty. Thank you so much for RWBY. And Ren, we love you too. Even when you don't understand RWBY's awesome phrases, like, no, out of control isn't awesome. You did an awesome. And he's like, oh, thank you. Yeah. That was masterful. That was genius. Well done to add extra emphasis on delivery.
Right.
In those dialogue, those little bits of dialogue.
Yes.
Did you notice that because this episode did feel like a little bit of a setup? It's kind of an advantage that they have this volume because they have the extra 2 episodes.
Yes,
it's basically them being allowed to take little bits of extra time here and there for special things like, Ren's little speech. Yeah. So the delivery. It's the idea that I feel like RWBY isn't in a state of urgency right now, in the negative sense, where they're not freaking out about all this story they have to tell.
Exactly. It's not something where it's like, all right, we have to make sure that in this 4-minute episode, we hit the points that we want to hit.
Right.
It's like,
and it's not necessarily padding for time. Like, there are parts where they could be padding for time, and you could say, you could make a good argument for that. But no, it's actually other parts where you get actual, potential character depth.
Exactly.
Like, one of the things that they've improved a lot on this volume in terms of visual animation is all the character expressions.
Oh yeah.
Like, have you noticed that?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Especially the subtle ones coming from Jean, because Jean seems to be in a bit of a sulky mood right now.
Just a bit. Like,
and you can tell there's some little ones where you're like, oh, I saw that, Jean.
Yeah, because there's Ren and Nora, and they'll always be tight, right? Yes. And then Team RWBY, they're Team RWBY, right? They're a team. They're all together. But then Jean kind of ends up being like
the odd man out.
Literally.
He's the third remaining person in the team, and
So those kinds of little subtle expressions are really, really nice.
Are really good. So thank you for those.
Yes.
One of the things that I noticed in particular with this episode was they had a bit of a just a continuous bit with the food, little scene there where you've got a bunch of characters talking and stuff, but it just keeps going back and forth along the same conversation as it evolves. Whereas sometimes what they'll do is they'll not have it be a continuous conversation. What they'll do is they'll make hard cuts, which they did end up doing, and then they had each person basically give their little bit about this is what's happened to me in the past. But for a good portion of it, it was just a strained, continuous conversation, which means they had to write some way in order for this all to branch out and connect into a bunch of different things. And it didn't feel stunted or having random bits that made no sense to come through. It's kind of like how they segued having the food being empty to John talking about having problems keeping it all down. He's like, all right, calm down, Bobby boy.
Yeah,
I believe in you. It's like, oh, we're doing callbacks again, and then it goes back into Ren's bit about the speech, and it's this continuous thing.
The dialogue had a nice flow there.
Yeah.
I was a bit surprised that they ended, like, okay, they consistently will have these points where they'll be talking about something that's really important.
Right.
Usually with Ozpin, Oscar, right. Mm-hmm. And that makes sense. But they still haven't brought up the Silver Eyes. Like I would expect that even if maybe RWBY, since she's gotten a bit of an explanation about it, might not be talking about it. But what about, like, oh, by the way, how was that Grim defeated? I guess Crow defeated it.
Well,
or,
yes, but there's the idea that no one else was there. So
right, Weiss probably would have seen a flash of silver light, I guess.
We don't know. The idea that that's something that needs to get brought up, I feel like is something that RWBY needs to bring up directly to Ozpin. And I feel like that does need to be said. But I would also really like it, from your standpoint, to have Ozpin go directly to RWBY through Oscar and be like, hey, I need to talk to you about your mom.
Right.
But I can feel a little bit of the plot reveal constraints going in there. And that maybe is a negative bit where they're holding back on telling that because it's an important thing for later. But also in terms of relevancy, it might not be relevant because there's a very real possibility, and I don't necessarily like this possibility, but there's a very real possibility that Ozpin knows almost nothing about the Silver-Eyed Warriors other than that they're strong against Grimm and they're legendary, unique fighters. It would be interesting to say, like, no, but I know someone who does know something.
Okay.
And maybe he gives RWBY a side quest of sorts in Season 6.
Here's one of the things that I think is worth bringing up. So we now have it confirmed that Salem is ancient because
because of previous episodes.
Right, because previous episodes, and Ozpin's the wizard, and he was made to stop Salem and all that stuff, right?
Right.
But Salem's servants.
Yes.
So they seem to be fairly recent. Like, okay, Hazel, we've established that
Hazel's a little bit older.
Past, so
he's a little bit older.
He's probably got some semi-immortality going there or
maybe
something.
It's because he's fused his body with dust in some way, and that's made him live longer.
Possibly. Who knows? But one of the things that this is making me wonder is, okay, what's his deal? And granted, we haven't gotten
He's the machinist. He made the virus.
Right, yes.
Yep. But he made the Black Queen virus.
But, like, how long has he been around? You know, how did he end
20 years? Who knows? I don't think it's really important to know how long he's been there. Why is that important?
Well, because it, like, okay, I just thought of it because Hazel said we've dealt with their kind before.
He could mean just him and Salem.
He could just mean him and Salem, right?
But also, Jacob, think about it. 20 years ago was, like, RWBY's mom.
Exactly.
She was alive. She lives for another, like, right. I don't know. I think summer. It's not confirmed exactly when she left, but I think the idea is that
it was at least
it was at least younger
than RWBY is alive.
Right. At least one more year than RWBY is alive because she was alive at the time, but she's too young to really remember anything.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say 2 years old.
So
15 years ago, 14 years ago, technically.
Yes.
And that's plenty of time.
That is plenty of time.
Watts seems like the kind of guy where he could be anywhere from as young as 40 to as old, like maybe like 37 to 40 to as old as like 55.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, so that's plenty of service time to Salem in there.
Absolutely.
I think the only one that might be a little bit tough is Tyrion. Like, Tyrion is probably the young new... No, wait, Cinder's the newest.
Right.
That's why she's the bottom and they're making fun of her.
Yeah.
Tyrion is probably the next newest.
Sure.
He's pretty young looking.
Now,
he could be like 35,
Right. Now, the fact that Watts is going with them to the camp, that's what I find the most interesting.
He's the diplomat. It actually makes sense. No.
But are they doing any diplomatic stuff
right
now?
I think so. I think the idea that Watts being there is not necessarily also because he's a diplomat, but because when it comes down to them showing their power, someone needs to represent Salem. Basically, Cinder is like the right hand of Salem. Basically,
he's the voice.
And he is the voice, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So he comes in and says, I speak for my mistress, or for the high... For the Dark Lord,
I don't know. Grim,
whatever her titles are. I would actually love to see Watts introduce Salem in real life, like have Salem be there, and Watts like like bows and he gives a string of titles, not like basically Daenerys Stormborn kind
right,
of
yeah,
stuff there.
because like Tyrion was like, I serve a goddess. But it's like, okay,
yes.
But Tyrion's like,
but imagine the subtle like exposition they could give about the things that she's done.
Sure.
Lord of all Grim, you know, whatever.
Eater of kittens, you know, whatever.
But really, think about it. She could be, you know, like she could have done all kinds of things. But Watts being there, it could be a very similar thing to what happened with Weiss and Yang.
It could be.
They beat up a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
They show up. Raven and Vernal are basically like, well, are we going to do this? And Watts is like, well, you have a choice.
Right.
And he very eloquently puts the choice in front of them. Basically invites Vernal, I'll bet, to join them. Basically the idea that, you know, here's what we offer. Here's what we'll offer if you don't. You have a choice.
Right.
And then Raven will basically be like, yeah, screw that, and try to portal away, and then it'll be a manic fight of them basically trying to stop her from summoning a portal.
Right, now here's the potential advantage. Okay, so Vernal might be stupid and be like, I can take you guys on or whatever. I'm a maiden.
I think she could, probably.
Well, no, not whether or not she could, but the fact that she would declare that I'm the maiden, because they don't actually know what the maiden looks like. They don't know who it is, right?
Well, here's the thing, Jacob. Like,
yeah, okay, they could just say like, who has the most interesting character design here other than Raven?
No, not just that, but the idea that they know Raven isn't the Spring Maiden.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. But there's probably at least one other young lady in Raven's camp.
Oh yes, I agree. So, Vernal will hide in the crowd, and then they'll show up and be all, "We've destroyed your gate and your puny guards,
and then
we demand an audience with Raven."
Just open a portal,
and then Vernal leaves.
Yeah,
I think that Raven could easily get away herself.
Right, and that's why I think she wouldn't mind staying behind. Because
but the thing is that is this a means by which Raven is forced to basically eat her own words and go to Crow asking for help?
That's what I'm thinking.
So could a portal open up directly to Haven, to Crow specifically?
Yep.
Or Yang, and Vernal just shows up and she's like, hey. Yeah, Raven says hi. I need to stay here and...
Or better yet, can you guys, like, come back through the portal?
Oh, that would be cool.
Because Raven could open up a portal to Crow. Vernal comes through. She's like, hey, guys, Raven needs help.
I think that would be a good idea, but I think Raven wouldn't do that. I don't want either scenario to happen where Raven asks for help.
What if Vernal asks for help on behalf of Raven?
Here's the thing. If they have the good guys go to the camp and fight, don't they kind of have to win?
Yeah.
So if they don't do that because Raven is too proud to ask for help, that makes a lot of sense.
That does make a lot of sense.
And therefore her camp gets shattered. She has to turn into a raven and fly away, which, what are they going to do?
Right.
How are they going to stop that?
Yeah, or she just makes a portal and goes to Crow.
Yes, but I think there's also a real risk of her basically letting someone dangerous get through the portal.
That's the other thing I was thinking. If there was some sort of magician's nephew type deal that happens where and then it's like
dragged through the portal.
Yeah,
and then I think that she might open a portal for Vernal, but not for herself. I think the idea that Raven is the leader of the tribe, she is the first to charge and the last to retreat.
Right.
She would want to protect her people as much as possible.
Yeah.
Vernal being there would protect them, but if she sees that they're too much of a problem, then who knows? But also, I think we're severely underestimating Raven in particular.
Yes. But they have Emerald is the problem.
Well, they have Emerald, that's true. But here's the thing, Jacob. She can only use it on one person.
That is a good point.
That's
a good point.
So here's how they could do this without it being like Emerald just wins the whole fight. She tries to basically find the Spring Maiden as soon as possible, but no one's revealing who the Spring Maiden is.
So she just uses the illusions on Raven?
And then Vernal breaks out, boom, blows away Emerald,
Okay.
And then it's a real fight, and Emerald is
and
basically...
And we get to see Cinder not care when,
when
Emerald
That's
gets
actually a
blown
really
away.
good point that I wanted to bring up, was the idea that Emerald is the first target by Raven's tribe in this fight. The idea that if Emerald doesn't make herself, like, stealthy of some kind...
Yeah.
There could be real problems. I also feel like Emerald showing herself is also... Like, it's not a problem... But I think once they get into the actual camp, Emerald should hang back.
Right, because they don't actually know that she can use illusions.
Right, so one person could just start freaking out in their camp, and they're like, what is that?
Yeah.
And Emerald's just, like, casually just sitting there, you know, swinging her...
Her
scythe pistols, basically.
Right. Yeah, so...
but also, this could be just a severe just wipe where...
It could be.
Cinder has a lot more control of her own maiden powers.
And a lot of pent-up anger and like, okay, there's no silver-eyed Ruby here to stop me.
Yeah, it cracks the knuckles and it's just like, I'm going to let loose. And that's where Vernal basically comes in and tries to protect Raven. They could also do it that way where Raven is like, no, I won't leave you. And Vernal's like, you have to. Like, I'll hold them off.
Well,
and then Vernal lets the entire tribe escape. And now, Raven has to go somewhere.
Right.
Where's she going to go? She has to have a link to someone, right?
Exactly. Well, and here's the thing. So Raven's not going to leave Vernal behind because she knows they have some way of taking the Maiden's powers forcefully.
That's true.
So,
there's a lot of ways it could go. I think that's the reason why we're so excited about the next episode. Is that there's a lot of ways that
it's going to be ridiculous.
It could go down. I think that Cinder and company are going to win.
Yes, but the question is, how much are they going to win?
How much are they going to win? What's going to be the results?
Right, because they could win, but then, but if Raven and Vernal get away, and there's no and like no casualties from like Team Ranger and crew like going to help or anything, then for all intents and purposes, they lost.
Yeah.
Especially since at that point Watts would be away from Haven.
Yep.
And then they could be like, he's like, okay, I don't have long, but so Salem's like here, help me out.
Here's the other thing. We don't know if they've got like some other means of kind of controlling him while he's, here.
That's true.
Seer Grim might be what's actually watching him right now.
Yeah.
Also, here's the other bit that's kind of interesting, is the idea that if Raven is smart, she'll be like, wait, Crow basically sent them here.
Right.
Or Yang found me. How did they find me just after that? Just after that.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Now, all right. So long term for this season, they're basically prepping to have the battle for Haven be like the end of the
finale.
Season. The finale, right?
Yeah.
So that means that it's not just that Blake has to get back to Team RWBY, but they also have to amass the forces around Haven. They don't necessarily have to have like Raven's tribe there,
right?
But I think they're going to play a part, even if it's just like coming in at some later point during the battle or something like that.
They don't have to.
They don't have to.
I think what they've proved thus far is that the tribe is a joke. It's Vernal and Raven that are the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Because one of the points they keep making in this show is that you're pretty much screwed if the Grimm come and you don't have a huntsman or a huntress with you.
Yeah.
And particularly Raven's tribe has only 2 people of that caliber in their group.
Right.
As far as we know.
If they had more people, though, that we probably would have seen them already, just for the purposes of like introducing them and not seem like they're pulling them out of a hat.
Exactly.
So
having them be at the Battle of Beacon, either Vernal on, Salem's side, or having already been killed and have her powers taken.
Right.
The Spring Maiden's powers will be involved at the Battle of Haven.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. And Raven will probably be involved there as well. I don't think that they've given enough development to Raven to where they're going to kill her off.
Yeah.
But here's the part that's real. I really think this is a real possibility. Is Raven could get captured and basically sent to Salem.
Oh.
And Salem could see about actually turning her to her side. It would be interesting to see how much Raven's survival instinct kicks in over her freedom, over her ideologies around freedom. So if she, values her own life above her freedom, then she might join her.
Sure.
We don't know where her priorities are with regards to that, but we can guess.
Well, yeah.
And I'd say there's a non-0% chance
that if she was captured, she would join.
Join, yeah.
Yeah.
Reluctantly, but
right. But eventually,
she is terrified of Salem, so
now,
it's not a thing where she trivializes Salem.
Now, here's the thing that I'm wondering. So since they introduced Raven fairly recently, right?
Yep.
And a lot of the times it was with
into the story,
into the
not
story.
As a character.
Yeah, but like actually being present.
Yes.
So they haven't done much for her as far as rule of cool since she saved Yang and her and Crow had that conversation.
True.
So I don't think they're going to have her lose so completely because Crow was like, I need to know where the Spring Maiden is, and she's like, no, I'm the only one who can protect her.
Right.
So I think she is at least going to succeed at protecting Vernal.
Oh, okay.
Right. Even if she ends up maybe getting taken captive or whatever, dying, who knows.
Interesting.
I don't think Vernal, or at the very least the Spring Maiden's powers are going to be lost to Salem here.
Oh, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it could happen, but
no, I think it's happening here. I think that we're ramping up, and this is the example of the episode where things happen, but it's also a build-up episode. Okay. If the powers are taken in some way, it's going to be the WTF moment where Cinder actually takes the Spring Maiden's powers as well. And it's going to be this thing of like, but wait, you already have the powers. How are you doing this? And then we're going to see the Grim thing come out of the glove. And basically Salem will have Cinder basically being this petri dish of all the powers.
Yeah. Okay. If they had it be Cinder, then I could see that potentially happening. Because then they still have a way to beat Cinder because she has the Grim Insider and Ruby can do her Silver Eyes thing. And then that can be the way that Ruby, sort of main character syndrome sets in of like, you're the only one that can save us because we have the power of two maidens and one person coming after us. And there's not really any way to stop that.
Except for Ruby's
for Ruby. So, if they did that, then I could see it going that way.
Well, the other thing is they'd have to capture Vernal and maybe bring her to Salem. I could see it being a thing where Salem goes, yeah, we're screwing the rules. You're going to have me in your final thoughts, and I will be the
one that gets passed on.
The one that gets passed on.
Except they said it doesn't work if it's an old hag, and Salem's kind of like
Salem being immortal breaks the rules on what is young or not.
Possibly.
And also, I don't think that aspect of who it could be is that hard to find. I think that Salem won't get the powers. I think it'll be Cinder.
Yeah. I think if anything, that's why maybe Salem has Cinder, because she needs someone that actually can get the powers.
I agree. But they could do the captured route, and she gets her power. She gets basically brought back to Salem.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if Vernal keeps the powers, then that will sort of detract from the sense of agency for the heroes in the battle for Haven, because it'll be a lot more dependent on, does Vernal come in to help us with Raven or not? Okay, who knows?
Who knows? Also, another thing that's pretty big here is that we're going to actually see our first Maiden-on-Maiden battle.
We are.
Regardless of how short it will be, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Which is pretty cool.
Like, it's the most obvious built-up thing once they showed the trailer and not the trailer, the opening.
Right.
The opening kind of trailer.
With them staring each other. Yeah.
Because what we don't understand necessarily is what is the difference between the maidens? Are they all generally the same elemental type powers?
Or are they not?
Or are they not? Do they have specific specializations or what have you? How do we know which is stronger, Cinder or the Spring Maiden? Is the Spring Maiden even powerful as far as, like, maidens are concerned? Right. And it's just that she's powerful compared to Raven because Raven's just a good huntress, basically.
Yeah.
We don't know.
We'll find out.
And we'll find out. Also, I feel like we'll find out potentially if it comes down to everyone fighting, we'll find out what Ozpin's weapon or semblance is. And that would be very cool to have as a, oh, wow, that's pretty awesome. And I wanted to know specifically if you have any theories on what Watts' semblance is.
I have no clue.
No clue?
No clue. We haven't even seen him with a weapon.
Well, here's the thing. I have a theory that he doesn't need a weapon.
He has a mind Semblance?
No, his name is Watts.
Oh.
Light, electricity.
I
think he could literally go Palpatine on someone.
Okay, that would be awesome, because then Nora could go to help, and
and
it would be fantastic. If we got to see Watts be like, whoa,
unlimited power,
and Nora's just like, oh, it's too strong, I can't. No, please stop.
One of the things that I've seen a lot of people theorize is the idea that because Vernal used that lightning strike at one point, it's the idea that if they took Vernal's powers and she specializes primarily in lightning, that if like Cinder or someone else took it and they attacked Nora,
they would attack her with lightning.
They would attack her with lightning, and it would be this. Oh no!
This isn't even like a taser or something. This is actual lightning,
right?
Perpetually being shot at me.
Basically, super juicing Nora with like all she could ever need. She doesn't even need that lake bed green algae crap. She's just like lightning, god of thunder.
This is something that I always thought would be interesting. They're not going to do this because it would be too silly, but if Vernal did end up going to help like defend Beacon, and they're like, crap, what are we going to do? Okay, here, just to make sure that we have all our cards on the table, Nora, stay there.
Yeah, she just supercharges Nora.
Exactly.
I feel like supercharge Nora was just a rule of cool, awesome thing that they looked at this volume, and they're like, it's going to happen. How is it going to happen? They're like, well, Watts' semblance is electricity. It's like, oh, wait, but we got Vernal. Oh, wait, who's going to do it? It's like, well, Vernal's not going to.
They could both do it.
They could both do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like Watts' semblance doesn't necessarily have to be lightning. I like the Vernal bit of having the Spring Maiden powers.
Yeah, that
hit
pretty
Nora
awesome.
in that way, and she's like, yeah. And then we see a much better strength demonstration than even what we saw in Volume 3.
Right.
Where Nora smashes them. But having it be from Watts, I think, could potentially work. It also works with technology because...
That's true.
You know, electricity, technology, there's some connection there. A semblance of connection.
That would be really interesting if the bad guys ended up needing to be like, okay, so we know these darn kids have these semblances that we need to watch out for. So the pink one, don't shoot any electricity at her. They just don't do that.
Maybe they'll know about that, and there'll be a moment where they shoot lightning at
Mercury and Emerald would know.
Ren or something.
And then Nora jumps in the way.
No. Cinder knows basically everyone's semblance at the school.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
She went and studied all of them. But the idea that, maybe Watts attacks Ren, and Ren's like, it's too much. And then Nora's like, Ren! And she jumps in the way. And she just, just charges
and
up.
Cinder's like, no, stop.
Yeah, whoever is attacking is like, nope, stop it. And they're like, wait.
What do you mean?
Yeah. I like that there's also not really a way to tell, like, how juiced she can get just by how, like, just a little bit of, like, electricity or lightning. Because just the dust bolt from Ruby's sniper rifle was enough to do a lot.
There's probably something where it doesn't, like, it's not like a permanent strength boost, like, like if she doesn't use it in some certain amount of time, then it goes away or something, which is why she doesn't just, like, go to, like, a power plant or something and just be like, all right,
what are you doing here, Nora? Training.
Yeah, the whole city blacks out, you know?
I could see her doing that where Nora training, this could be like a Chibi Season 3 skit.
Yes.
She's just licking batteries or something. Or she
has a car battery and she's just like got the wires in her mouth just
and she's just sitting there and you see Nora sitting there and she's just smiling and she's vibrating just we're like, Nora, what are you doing? She's like, it's training,
Oh boy. But they're not
gonna
use Nora's semblance as like some way to solve everything, which is why even though I think this would be hilarious to have Vernal just like shoot her full of lightning, it's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah. The idea that Yang could potentially leave if Ruby wasn't there, I thought was very good that we caught that, but they didn't go there specifically. They wrote about the idea that Yang is tired of being, lied to and basically controlled and stuff like that. So her basically making that ultimatum was something I don't think any of the other characters would have made if she didn't stand up and say something. But Ruby has come really close to that previously when Crow basically mentions that they have some things he has to tell them, And she's like, well, why didn't you trust us? Why didn't you stick around with us? And then they find out about his semblance. The idea, though, that Ozpin has still secrets that he's not saying,
because
is obvious,
right? And that's why I find Yang's ultimatum kind of like Will Turner saying like Elizabeth goes free. It's like, yes, we know that.
Yes, we know that. Yeah, like, exactly.
And he doesn't actually go to like the important stuff. Like Yang could have said like, okay, at this point, since we're all in this together, all the cards go on the table. Like no lies, but all the secrets. Let's just get them out in the open. You know?
Right. I feel like one way that it's not necessarily like that is the idea that Yang does understand that there are a lot of things that she can't know, but there are also a lot of things where they're misdirecting them for the purpose of manipulating them.
Right.
And that's different. The idea that she doesn't need to know what he did on his 12th birthday.
Right, yeah.
It's the idea that there are things that there'll be secrets, but there will be things that will be secrets relevant to Yang and the the crew, essentially, and they won't tell them because, well, we don't want them to be, scared, or we don't want to, scare them off.
The usual BS.
The usual stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like there will be a moment in the upcoming episodes where, Ozpin will be like, okay, you said no more, lies or secrets. Here's this bit, and they won't be ready for it.
Right.
It'll be something like that where they're like, I didn't want to know that. It's kind of the thing of, well, I was responsible for Summer's death, kind of things like that.
Yeah.
I sent her on a mission to go hunt down Salem. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
I get the feeling also that Ozpin hasn't seen or interacted with Salem in a long time because Salem is actually kind of scared of Ozpin.
Okay.
And because of that, she's actually a little bit wrong to fear him because, as he said, his power is dwindling.
Yeah.
And I think the theme that they'll bring up is the idea that Salem has slowly been growing in power.
Right.
And Ozpin has not.
Just like the moon.
Yes, that too, but also it's got some similarities to some other shows as well. The idea that the villain is concentrating all their efforts on amassing power for themselves, but she still fears Ozpin because I don't think she's even capable of potentially battling a full-fledged maiden. I think Salem's real strength comes from the idea that she is operating in the shadows, and I think every moment that we interact and find out new things about the protagonists and how much power and potential they have, it adds to Salem's enigma that she won't interact with people directly because there are too many crazy things out there that could not one-shot her, but really get lucky and just completely destroy her. So maybe that's why we haven't seen the Winter or the Summer Maidens, because they're full-fledged and they're out there doing stuff.
Right.
And
yeah, because the Maidens that we've seen so far have been young and kind of inexperienced.
Right. They could have it be a thing where one of the Maidens is jaded and you just don't interact with her. Like, she's become the wizard, essentially. She's jaded, she's living alone.
Right.
Has all this crazy power, but is like, screw Salem, screw Ozpin. I'm just going to sit here and tend my garden.
F the King's Guard.
And drink tea, that kind of thing. But with this episode, next one being about a confrontation between Raven's tribe and Cinder, Mercury, Emerald, and
something's gonna happen. A lot of things are gonna happen, and
a lot of crazy
stuff. They probably
stuff.
won't all be good.
Yep, probably won't be. Anything else you can think of that need to bring up with regards to this episode in particular?
Not really. I think this episode didn't have too much on its own to talk about. It was mostly the questions that it asked about what's going to happen in the future, both short term and long term.
Right. What did you think about the idea that Ozpin really did change Crow and Raven so that they could be his eyes to see more?
I mean, we already kind of figured as much.
Well, no, we knew that, but the idea of why he did it, and the fact that they wanted it. Is this tie-ins to the idea that Stark was the original Team RWBY and they were the Salem hit squad?
Yeah, I think that's what they're building towards. because again, Crow didn't feel the need to tell them about it, and he didn't mind the fact that
they were told
they
about
were
it.
Right, and if anything,
well, he seemed a little bit like, okay, here we go.
Right, but like, no, he didn't mind the fact that he was given the ability to turn into a bird. Like, I was actually kind of surprised that Yang freaked out about it so much. Like, it kind of smelled like a little bit of melodrama, because it's like, it's not that he turned them into birds. He made them able to, at their will, turn into birds and turn back.
But we don't know any details about the transformation.
Right, exactly.
So
yeah,
here's the thing. We're assuming a little bit with regards to the whole process and or any side effects that come with that process.
That's true, but we haven't gotten anything to say that there are side effects.
Correct.
There or anything like that.
Correct.
So,
but I think the main thing that they thought, and Yang rightfully thought, was the idea that Ozpin did it to them without their consent.
Right.
And Raven made it seem like that intentionally.
Exactly.
But then Crow's like, no, Yang, we wanted this.
Yeah.
It's the idea that, yeah, they probably did want this, but
they might have been young and stupid.
Raven regrets it, at the very least. And I think that there's potential for some kind of side effects because her regretting it isn't as simple as, I hate the fact that I can
change into a bird. Yeah, you could just not change into a bird if that were the case.
Right. Also, the idea of them being able to see things, one of the things that I feel like actually does tie in there is that Raven does have some kind of potential foresight. Okay. The idea that maybe Crow and Raven both have something like that. The idea that these birds that they're turning into are not just literal
regular birds.
They still have the ability of summoning their own auras. They can use certain specific things while they're in there. Otherwise it would be the dumbest thing to transform into a crow or a raven, because some random Grim comes by and just kills you.
Or some random huntress in training comes flying through the air.
Yeah, and shoots you, or it hits you with her death sight. Birdie, no! Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I think that there are aspects to it because it ties in also to the Hugin and Munin legend of Odin, and that he had two ravens who were basically his eyes. Yeah. And that's where the whole three-eyed raven thing came from with regards to Game of Thrones.
Right.
So I think that there's something there. It could be just ravens have really good sight, so it's like, hey, you can scout out areas pretty effectively.
Yeah, whatever.
But you see the interesting bit here? We've got Crow and Raven given a power. Summer, innate born power. Taeyang's just the normal Sokka character who just got all the girls, that's for sure.
That's true.
But it kind of got left alone at the end of all this, where all these crazy people went off.
Now we know why he just stays home all day.
Yeah, that guy's got some baggage. I mean, he's got stuff he's.
Well, I was more saying the fact that he doesn't have any special awesome powers.
Oh, I disagree. I feel like he does have something that's semi-good. Even like if we look at Team RWBY right now, all four of them have pretty ridiculous semblances.
Assuming Jean's actually is a good semblance.
RWBY.
And it's
RWBY.
Oh, right. Yeah, Team RWBY. That's right.
That's what Team Stark is, basically. But this time, Ozpin has two teams. And that's different. But the idea that they each have their potential counterpart within the group, Taeyang, could be basically someone that does have a really great power, but he doesn't like,
he doesn't like flaunting it or whatever.
Fighting or flaunting it, or he's kind of tired of the whole mission for Ozpin kind of thing. That's maybe why he doesn't like Crow. Crow is a little bit more, I'm earning back, my honor, so to speak, for all the problems that I've caused for people by helping the world through Ozpin. And Taeyang's like, I don't feel that guilt associated with it, so I don't need to do anything. I just need to protect my family and be a good dad.
But anyways, this was a good episode.
This is a good episode.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that once again that they were given those 2 extra episodes.
Yeah.
Because even though that I would say last episode had a little bit of just kind of fluff going on in there, in this episode you could feel how in the dialogue banter in particular there were a lot of key delivery moments and also added dialogue in there that gave you the sense of they were given the freedom to spend as much time as they wanted on Volume 5.
Right.
And basically they didn't have to edit down their writing to a point where they were cutting things. We're basically looking at a RWBY Extended Edition cut.
Yeah.
And that gives us awesome,
it does.
dialogue, happy, fun-feeling moments like like this one.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, guys. Well, that was a lot of fun.
It was.
As we said previously, unfortunately, the next 2 episodes of
will
RWBY
will be a bit late.
Yeah. We'll give you updates. Be sure to follow us on Twitter if you want to know, where things are at a consistent basis. That link is in the description below. Also, be sure to check out our Patreon. We got a lot of stuff there that's awesome on early access. Nothing RWBY related, of course.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see you all there. But also, our Discord. Be sure to check out our Discord where you can discuss RWBY or whatever with us. We will, of course, not be
talking about RWBY
too much once the next episode airs.
Right.
But yeah, check it out, and we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.